welcome to another edition of the NCBI Podcast. I'm June Tinsley, Head of Communications and Advocacy with NCBI. And today I have the pleasure of having a chat with Sarah McGowan, who is originally from Waterford, but has travelled quite a lot and is talking to me today from Canada. So very welcome, Sarah, and thanks for taking the time to have a chat with me.
Yeah, good morning. Lovely to talk to you.
Good. So I suppose just from the listener's perspective, would you mind just kind of telling us a little bit about yourself and how you got yourself from all the way from Waterford to Canada?
Yeah, so my name is Sarah McGowan. I'm 21 years old. I am currently studying law and political science at Trinity, and I'm currently on exchange for a semester in Queen's University in Kingston in Canada. I'm visually impaired. My condition is called Leber's congenital amaurosis, which is a genetic condition, and I've had it since birth. I'm also a guide dog user, so I'm not here alone. I have my guide dog Mossy with me, who is great company. And yeah, it's been quite a journey.
And tell me, Sarah, if you're studying law, is that in Ireland and you're just doing this semester in Canada?
Yeah, so I generally study in Trinity. I'm in third year of my law and political science degree. Over here, I'm only studying law. I did a full semester of political science last semester, and so I'm just studying law over here in Queen's for this semester.
Amazing. And how has it been for you, being in Trinity with a vision impairment and versus being in Kingston University with a vision impairment?
To be honest, I would say it's probably better over here in Canada. They just seem a bit more advanced in terms of acceptance over here, which is kind of lovely. Like when I'd be walking in the streets or whatever, or around in shops and things, there's a lot more acceptance, first of all, of Mossy as a guide dog, in terms of I don't get questioned about him. I don't get challenged about bringing him into places or things like that. There's a bit more acceptance over here. In terms of services and things, I pretty much get the same accommodations. I've linked in with the accessibility services over here in the same way as I linked in Trinity with the accessibility services, which are great. And I have a whole report of different things that I get for exams and within classes and things. Like I get to record lectures and I get slides in advance, and they have pretty good software for your computer as well over here. So.
And did you find the kind of moving from Waterford to Dublin to kind of participate in college any more or less overwhelming than the move from Dublin to Canada?
Moving from Waterford to Dublin wasn't particularly major for me, in terms of I always knew I wanted to travel and I wanted to move away. So I had my mother had always kind of raised me to be independent. I went on my first trip abroad alone with the IHCPT, which is a children's foundation that brings children with disabilities to Lourdes. When I was 11, that was the first time I ever went abroad kind of by myself without any family or anything. And I loved that. And so I'd always kind of been raised to be independent and do things for myself. So moving from Waterford to Dublin, I also had sisters in Dublin. One of my sisters goes to DCU and the other goes to Dunleary. So I had them kind of up there the previous year to kind of show me the ropes and things in terms of public transport and all of that. But that wasn't particularly major. There is a few things, like in terms of I I will always opt for the Lewis over the bus because I just find personally it's easier in terms of I can't actually read which bus I'm getting on and things. And when I first moved up to Dublin, asking people for help was quite daunting. And I just didn't, I just hated kind of going up to people and asking, say, which bus it was or whatever. So I always just kind of opt for the Lewis. So moving up to Dublin wasn't particularly traumatic. Moving to Canada wouldn't have been, except for I had a bit of an incident in the airport trying to get Mossy to Canada, my guide dog, because they didn't. We had a stopover flight, and to get it, so we flew from Dublin to Heathrow, and then Heathrow to Toronto. But in Heathrow Airport, they didn't have adequate facilities for my dog to go out. So we ended up having to delay our flight and take him out through security and bring him out. And that was a very stressful day. So the actual concept of just moving as a student from Ireland to Canada, say if you're just like if you were just like a long cane user, didn't have a guide dog or even just a direct flight, or I don't know, as a concept it's fine. It was just my journey was not made easier by the fact that services were not provided in Heathrow Airport.
Okay. And tell me then, obviously, as you mentioned, having your sisters in Dublin certainly helped build your confidence in navigating Dublin as a city. Arriving in Toronto and the university, where it was all 100% new to you, how did you find the confidence to find your way around either the campus or the city?
So my mother came over with me in January to Toronto, and we spent a while in Toronto, and then we got the bus down to Kingston. And basically, I'm older, and that time in Dublin has kind of taught me things like Google Maps, say, with the audio directions and stuff. I just put that in my earphones, and then as I'm walking, it directs me. So I'm able to navigate a lot better. And having lived in Dublin before I moved away, and having that kind of security net of, if I somehow get lost in Dublin, I can call my sisters and they can kind of help me out or whatever, has taught me, I developed the skills of kind of navigating around. And also I'm a bit more confident about kind of asking people for help. So my mom came over, and so she kind of helped me move into Kingston. But as it happened, everything was actually in lockdown. So we couldn't do much kind of campus navigation or any of that while she was here. So I've had to do that all independently myself. And it's actually been the first time I've ever kind of had to do that without a kind of security net of, like, I didn't know anybody when I moved over here. So the people now are so friendly and so, just helpful and kind. So I feel like I could just go up to somebody and ask them for directions. And I have done that a couple of times. And they're lovely and really helpful. But I think having moved to Dublin, it's kind of made this transition to a different country a lot less, I've kind of done it in steps instead of one big kind of leap. So it's definitely been easier.
Very good. Yeah. So once you've finished in Kingston and Toronto and come back to Dublin, finish your degree, you've obviously fully experienced traveller. Is there any other place you'd like to head next?
I don't know, to be honest. Like, I obviously love holidays and things, but in terms of where I want to go, where I want to live, I'm not entirely sure, because that entirely depends on my say career choices or whatever, and I have no idea, to be honest, what I'm going to do next year when I graduate. But I'm not like opposed to the idea in any way, of like if I was given a job offer abroad, like I wouldn't turn it down because it's abroad or anything like that.
You're just open to any of the opportunities that come your way.
Yeah, basically.
Fair play to you. Fair play to you. And tell me, Sarah, do you have any residual vision at all?
I do, yes. So my vision, it's very changeable in terms of there is no measurement for my vision, because I'm very light sensitive. So if it's any way darker or artificial light or things like that, I see way better. If it's really bright and sunny, I'm practically blind. So it's very my vision very much depends on the light. I'm also completely colorblind. I have absolutely like no notion of colors whatsoever. And I do have nystagmus, but that's I've learned to control that, which I was told when I was younger I shouldn't be able to, but I have learned to control that like quite a lot. And when I was younger, I was also told my vision was going to deteriorate and I was going to be blind by the time I was like 20, but that's clearly not the case, which is great.
Yeah.
My vision is very stable. So yeah, I use large print and I rely on my vision quite a lot actually, which probably helps. But so like there are times when I go out, particularly when it's very sunny, and say if it's snowing over here and it reflects off the snow, I'm practically blind. I've basically no functional vision. So Mossy helps me in those particular situations. So,
and to be fair, the snow in Canada is far more frequent than snow in Ireland. So how is Mossy coping with significant depths of snow?
He's grand because actually they have the snow isn't really a bother. They have it all kind of plowed away from the streets a lot of the time, and they have basically little kind of channels in the snow. And he has a little kind of balm to go on his paws, so that kind of helps with the say the salt and stuff that they have on the roads. They're a lot more prepared for it over here, shall we say, than they are at home. So it's just kind of all banked to the side, so it's not really a bother.
Correct. Yeah, I mean, the reality is they experience high volumes of snow year on year, so are definitely more prepared than we are.
Yeah, exactly. Like they'd have a lot of snow plows and things, and you tell people that like if they had this much snow in Ireland, the whole country would be shut down, and we'd all be off school and off work and all these kind of things. And they kind of laugh at you. They wouldn't be able to kind of comprehend how the amount of snow we get over here can actually kind of bring Ireland to a halt almost, but because we're a lot less prepared for it. So
that's true. And tell me, Sarah, if you'd one piece of advice for any other student who's listening and who's thinking of doing an Erasmus year abroad or a semester abroad, would you have any? What would that advice be?
So I'm going to give a general piece of advice for students, right? Because say I haven't talked about my previous experience of say secondary school, primary school, all that, right? But what I have learned is advocate for yourself. In terms of I went through the process through my education in general, right? I've had a lot of problems in terms of in I was the youngest person in Ireland to ever use a cane. I My mother actually went to one of the highest ministers to get us a parking badge for our car, which we were denied when I was young because they weren't given to blind and vision impaired people. I've been denied services all through primary, secondary school, and my mother and I together advocated for me, and that taught me to like basically just kind of advocate for myself. And I wanted to do the best I could in education. I was raised to, my mom was adamant that she wanted me to kind of be independent, go to college, get a good education and good job and all this. And I was really academic. And so I really wanted this. So if ever I was denied services or denied something I wanted, say, or, I'd heard of people who couldn't go on Erasmus because of, say, reasons to do with their disabilities or whatever. And I wouldn't accept it. So I've had those kind of fights and those kind of battles almost. Mostly through secondary school, some through primary school. And there's been a couple of times in college where you'd come up against difficulties and people say, oh, we can't do this. Oh, because of your visual impairment, this is going to be a lot more difficult. And it might be a bit more difficult, but it's definitely not as difficult as some people seem to think it will be or could be. So in terms of, don't accept less than anybody else, because and just don't accept don't accept no as an answer if you really want to do something, because it is possible and there are ways and means. And just advocate for yourself, because you're the best advocate. You know best your needs and your condition and your limitations. Nobody else can tell you that, no matter how hard sometimes they try. So yeah, that's basically my piece of advice. And in terms of Erasmus particularly, there's pretty much no reason that I can think of why any difficulties regarding blindness or visual impairment should be an impediment to going on Erasmus. So if you want to go and don't let anybody stop you. And yeah, that's basically my advice.
Well, to be fair, Sarah, I mean, you sound very realistic and inspiring in equal measure, because as you rightly say, you know your own needs better than anybody else. So it's a question of trying to make sure that those needs are met, and not to accept less than anyone else. So wise words indeed for any of our listeners who are listening, and for any student who wishes to take the plunge. Certainly Sarah would be a strong champion to recommend that it is a great experience for you to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And if anybody wants to, say, get in contact with me or anything, in terms of if you have any questions about, I don't know, going through the education system with a visual impairment, or going on Erasmus, or going to college, or anything like that, feel free to get in contact with me as well. I've absolutely no problem giving advice or helping in any way I can, basically, as someone who's kind of been through that. So you can all get in contact with me as well if you want to.
Well, thank you very much, Sarah, for that offer. And we'll obviously post this on our own social media channels. And as you mentioned to me off air, Mossy the dog has his own account, Mossy.moments on Instagram. So we'll post it up on that channel as well. As always, if any listener wishes to get in touch with NCBI services, feel free to jump onto our website, ncbi.ie, or to call our info line 1-800-911-250. And if anybody wishes to get in touch with Sarah, you can do that through the Instagram page, mossy.moments, or come straight back to me through NCBI, and I can put you in touch with Sarah. But for now, Sarah, all I can say is thank you very much for your time, and fabulous chatting with you and hearing about the transition to Canada. I genuinely hope the term you have there is really worthwhile, and I look forward to meeting you in Trinity when you return.
Thanks very much. It's been lovely chatting to you.